Okay, this presentation is about plant transport, the way water and food move throughout a plant. There's the syllabus recommendations, what we need to know, and they'll be on the top of each of the slides as we're going through. Okay, one of the things that plants need is water. Water is needed for photosynthesis. How does water get into a plant? Obviously, it goes in through the roots, in through tiny extensions of the root epidermis cells called root hairs. Water enters through these root hairs by osmosis and then moves between the cytoplasm from cell to cell across the cortex, across the ground tissue of the root towards the xylem at the center of the root. The constant upward movement of water like that is called the transpiration stream. It's necessary that water leaves the leaf at the top by transpiration in order to pull more water upwards from the roots. So there's a constant flow of water moving upwards. Water is evaporating from the surface of the leaf, and it pulls the next water molecule upwards closer to the stomata. So there's a long chain of water molecules that are pulling each other upwards. Water molecules have what's known as a high cohesive force. They're very sticky. They stick to each other. So as one water molecule evaporates from the leaf, it pulls the next water molecule upwards. So this is called the cohesion tension model, or sometimes called the pull cohesion tension model of water transport. Okay. Transpiration is pulling water upwards through xylem all the way upwards from the root. And look at the last paragraphs. The highest rate of transpiration occurs in the hottest and brightest days. Okay, you have a lot of water evaporating from the surface of the leaf, and therefore it's pulling a lot of water upwards from the roots during those weather conditions. Now, what else needs to enter the root? Minerals such as nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, they need to enter the root hairs as well, because they're going to be used for making proteins and other necessary substances within the plant. Some of these minerals can enter by diffusion because they may be in higher concentrations outside in the soil compared to inside in the plant, but others need to be actively taken in. They're going to move across against their concentration gradient. So minerals are often taken into plants by what is called active transport. Okay, so if you're looking at the diagram, the minerals in the soil are represented by these red dots. There's far more minerals inside in the roots. Okay, so the tendency for diffusion would be for the minerals to move out. Would be to move out. But active transport brings even more minerals into the roots against their concentration gradient. So active transport requires energy. Now, looking at carbon dioxide needs to get into a plant for photosynthesis to happen. The carbon dioxide will enter through tiny openings at the base of leaves called stomata. Okay, at the same time as carbon dioxide is entering the leaves, oxygen is moving out. So there is an exchange of gases. So this gas exchange, oxygen leaves because it's a product of photosynthesis, and carbon dioxide enters the leaf because it's required in photosynthesis. The palisade layer of cells, or a layer of cells just underneath the upper epidermis, they're very high in chloroplasts. This is the part of the leaf that's going to be exposed to the direct sunlight. Palisade mesophyll cells. These cells here, just underneath the upper epidermis, high in chloroplasts. Also inside the leaf, we have lots of air spaces. This allows the free movement of the carbon dioxide when it enters through the stoma. It has free movement through the leaf, through all the air spaces, so that it can reach those palisade mesophyll cells. These cells here, it's not labeled in the diagram, but these cells here are called spongy mesophyll cells. Palisade mesophyll cells are tightly packed. Spongy mesophyll cells are more loosely arranged. Okay. If we look back at this diagram here, it gives you another view of what a section through a leaf would be. These cells up the top, these are the palisade mesophyll cells, spongy mesophyll cells here, and the stomata is allowing gas exchange. Now, this diagram is just simply showing transpiration. That's the water coming out. Okay. Just to mention lenticels here at the bottom, these are the openings on stems for gas exchange. Now, a stem, even though it may not be photosynthesizing, is still respiring. It still needs to get rid of a waste gas in respiration called carbon dioxide. So lenticels are openings on the stem that will allow gas exchange to happen. Now, this is one of the things on the syllabus. Carbon dioxide is a controlling factor in gas exchange. Okay, if carbon dioxide levels rise, then that's going to cause the stomata to close. So we're looking at the second paragraph. At nighttime, there's less photosynthesis, so the carbon dioxide will build up in the air spaces close to the guard cells. So at nighttime, you have a buildup of carbon dioxide. Higher carbon dioxide levels at night cause the guard cells to close. So that's the important statement there. High carbon dioxide levels at nighttime cause the guard cells to close the stomata. Now, if we're looking at the diagram, the stomata here, this little opening, is surrounded by a pair of guard cells. Okay, when the guard cells are open, or when the guard cells expand rather, they have this curved shape. They curve because one side of the guard cell has a thicker wall compared to the other. So when they expand, they curve, and that creates an opening. When they shrink back down again, they straighten, and the stomata is closed. Okay, the stomata will be closed at nighttime because you have high levels of CO2 at nighttime. And the opposite in the daytime, carbon dioxide levels decrease due to photosynthesis. Okay, so there's less, so this is daytime, there's less carbon dioxide because it's being used by photosynthesis. Okay, that allows the guard cells to expand, water enters the guard cells, they swell, and at the same time they curve. So you should know these two diagrams here. Underneath this diagram, maybe write down a high CO2 nighttime, and underneath this diagram, you could write low CO2 during the daytime. Now, what do leaves do? Leaves are making food. Okay, how is that food transferred? So the food is made in the form of glucose, and then if the leaf wants to store it within the leaf, it's converted into starch and it stays in the leaf. If that food needs to be transported elsewhere in the plant, it's converted into sucrose. So coming away from the leaf, we have a food called sucrose. Now that sucrose is a soluble sugar that's easily transported within the plant. Sometimes it's needed for growth in the root, sometimes it's needed for growth upward, above the leaf, maybe in a bud at the top of the plant. Okay, so food is transferred away from the leaf as sucrose to wherever it's needed. Okay, if it's going to be stored in the root, such as in a carrot, once the sucrose arrives in the root, it's converted to starch for storage. Okay, looking at what required, the top description of the uptake and process of the transport of the following. Production of carbohydrate and transport through the phloem sieve tube cells. Okay, so a reminder that the name of the cell that transports the food is a living cell called phloem sieve tube. Okay. Now that slide has finished. Thank you.